there has been a new statement coming out from one of the people who initiated the letter from the Air Force personnel inside of Israel, declaring again that the purpose of the war is to maintain the prime minister status. Nothing but that. Benjamin Netanyahu is not interested in getting anything done with Hamas, dismantling Hamas, getting rid, victory, all victory, let alone getting the prisoners of war back, because now the government ministers are outright saying we're not interested in them. They're not the priority. Now this man is saying the purpose is to maintain the prime minister's status. He wants to delay this for as long as possible. Now, there was another interesting thing happening several days back. Something very interesting and very dangerous at the same time. It's not the first time that it happened, but the fact that it happened now, report just over a week ago, raises alarm bells. Why? Because it's coinciding with the rebellion that started primarily from the Israeli Air Force, gradually and very quickly as well, stretched to the paratroopers, the military, people all across, protests all across of Israel. Like I said, over 140,000 signatories. Israel accidentally bombs its own settlement near Gaza due to technical difficulties. How can you bomb Israel due to technical difficulties? What, did you accidentally press the button to land a bomb on Nir Yitzhak, it's called Kibbutz Nir Yitzhak, that's next to the Gaza Strip. And according to this report, it wasn't the first time that the fighter jets, not the helicopters, like the helicopters massacred the people on the Nova Festival on the 7th of October, even though some fighter jets were included at the time, by the way. But this wasn't the only one after those incidents, after Israel killed its own people on the 7th of October. There were other strikes afterwards. Okay, what else happened? Well, according to this report, it wasn't only this attack in Nir Yitzhak, basically an IDF pilot landing a bomb on an Israeli kibbutz. They also said that the Israeli army, the Israeli Air Force, landed a half-ton bomb on the border of Moshav Yated in May, previously, last year, and that was considered to be exceptional, rare, and dangerous. Now, the Israeli army spoke about this report, and they had a comment. Their comment was, it was a technical malfunction. A short while ago, they said, munitions dropped from a fighter jets during an attack in the Gaza Strip fell in an open area in Kibbutz Nir Yitzhak as a result of a technical malfunction. Okay. I mean, mistakes do happen. Yeah, mistakes do happen, absolutely. But advanced fighter jets, advanced technology, is it really likely to happen more than once? Well, they have a track record of killing their own people. But coinciding with rebellion coming from within, especially from the Israeli pilots, was there an Israeli pilot who had enough and wanted to send a message, pretended to be wanting to land a bomb in Gaza and then landed on Israel to prove a point? Maybe. Who knows? It's an option, isn't it? I mean, we've seen in the past 17 months that many things are possible, including the things that we didn't think were possible, especially with the level of hatred coming from people from within the Israeli army towards Benjamin Netanyahu and towards the ministers, because to them, they are viewing an implementation of mass neglect, mass slaughter, mass homicide, the killing of many Israelis, alongside, of course, the crimes in Gaza. That's for those who have some sort of empathy to anything Palestinian, empathy or sympathy. I mean, more and more people are saying that, but let's say these people who fought, got back, they're seeing that the prime minister is going against ceasefire agreements. That's leading to more prisoners of war being killed, more reports in the mainstream media in Israel that Israel killed previous prisoners of war, that 42 of them were killed due to bombings. From who? From Israel. And now they've had enough. They've had enough because they're seeing that their own government is killing its own people. It's not there to defend. It's not there to protect the Israeli prisoners of war or save them or get them out, but it's there to kill them. They want to get rid of them. And the Israeli foreign minister and the Israeli finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich's statement that caused a lot of havoc in Israel, many people criticized it, saying that the prisoners of war are not the first priority. That's also something. So could this be a reason that this accident happened? Israel bombing accidentally its own settlement? Perhaps. Who knows? Everything is possible now, especially with the climate that's happening inside of Israel. Now, moving on to the next subject, America, the land of free speech, the beacon of freedom and democracy, the land of the Statue of Liberty, the champions of freedom all across the world, they have been conducting a campaign of silencing and terrorizing the movement that is calling for a ceasefire, that's criticizing the genocide and calling for a ceasefire. Now, universities, Donald Trump himself, the country itself, exporting, deporting people, imprisoning, kidnapping them from the streets, security forces in civilian clothes, they go and kidnap people for speaking up against the genocide. I thought the United States was supposed to be the beacon of freedom and liberty. Isn't the United States the beacon of freedom and liberty, with the Statue of Liberty like that, raising that? And everyone can say whatever they want. I thought they were like that. What happened? Anyway, the unis are not giving in. Over 150 college presidents signed letter rebuking Trump administration overreach. Especially, some of the largest universities too, but it's stretching to, diverse universities in very many locations inside of the United States. Trump threatening them with sanctions, basically stopping the funding, taking away their money, bullying, mafia approach. And thankfully, not all of them are giving in. There are movements now coming from the universities against Donald Trump, similar to the mass protests that we saw in the United States in the past couple of weeks against the Trump administration. Now there is growing action against them. However, how powerful would these people be, and would they be able to stop the Trump administration from continuing this campaign for freedom, this campaign for liberty, this campaign for freedom of speech, to protect freedom of speech? Well, to understand that, we need to know what's happening. Now, there was this report here on the Palestine Chronicle, from Miss Rachel to anti-war college students, the end of the American free speech, they called it. And in it, they were talking about, the actual campaign or project called Project Esther. What's Project Esther? A 33-page document published in October last year by the Heritage Foundation. And the US government teamed up with extremist elements from the Zionist lobby to crush criticism of Israel. From its recommendations to form a federal task force, to combat alleged anti-Semitism, which is really just criticism of the Israeli government, to its strategy to tear down leading academic institutions. The plan is being followed. The Heritage Foundation, most well known for its Project 2025, is known to possess considerable influence on the Trump White House. Of course they do. Yet they continue despite obvious influence and policy recommendations that are being followed almost down to the letter. There has been little connection drawn between these think tank documents and Donald Trump's anti-free speech crusade. So, well, there's a project behind it with task force and draconian measures being taken by the United States government, but it's not going very well with the people complying. Why? Because they are keen to protect their freedoms, especially the universities and activists as well. Now, it's not just stopping with the universities. There were also actions being taken by organizations in the United States. For example, this Organization of American Historians that voted to condemn Israeli scholasticide in Gaza, the mass homicide, mass slaughter of scholars and students. According to the report, there 10,000 students were killed, thousands of teachers, scientists inside of the Gaza Strip, of course, let alone the doctors and the nurses and the healthcare staff and the journalists and everyone. They're outright saying it's a scholasticide, not just a genocide. And Israel is doing that deliberately, meaning, well, despite Donald Trump's draconian measures and approach to stop this criticism from happening, clearly there are people who are not only fighting, but taking the battle to the next level, calling for more action and not stopping, not backing down, despite all of the pressure that's coming from Donald Trump. And if this continues, it's going to be very difficult for the US establishment to continue and have so much resources against people who are simply practicing their basic right of free speech, because it requires a lot of resources. If you're going to talk about hundreds of thousands or millions of people protesting, taking action, well, how much resources do you need to stop these people? So it's going to be very difficult for the administration to stop that, despite the fact that they are tied with the extreme elements within the Zionist lobby in the United States, with what was labeled as the Project Esther, to shut down any criticism coming from Israel, because the movement has become simply too big for them.